Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's an absolute delight to host you tonight for Mohsen's Artist Talk. Here at Inloco Gallery, we pride ourselves in being the antithesis to the traditional white box gallery. Instead, our space is theatrical, as you can see, and we're a pioneering space for urban and street artists to converge in harmony both in a gallery space through public art, as a cultural institution, and also in the metaverse. Mohsen Hazrati is an Iranian artist who lives and works in Berlin. After majoring in graphic design with a minor in new media and digital art, Mohsen graduated from the Shiraz Art Institute of Higher Education in 2012. His main focus is traditional literature, particularly ancient poetry, and its link with digital technologies such as data, AI, databases. Since 2013, in collaboration with, and I hope my pronunciation is correct, Milad Furuzan, he has been the co-founder and curator of Dar al-Hukume Project, a new media art project and activity based in Shiraz, Iran. He won the first prize in the VR Art Prize Germany, and his work has been presented at various conferences such as CPDP Brussels, State Academy of Fine Arts in Stuttgart, and many, many more, as well as exhibitions like Soma Berlin, NFT NYC, Art Basel Miami, and Art Dubai. This year, we will have a solo booth at Art Dubai presenting a magnificent project by this wonderful artist that blends traditional bibliomancy with AI. I invite you to come visit us, and now let's give our energy and undivided attention to the wonderful Mohsen. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for coming here and thanks for beautiful words. So can we have the screen? Maybe. So yeah, I mean, this is like a kind of like a artist talk format that I started during like COVID time because there were like many kind of like online meetings and online kind of like artist talks. I mean, particularly it was like it started from like I Am Weekend conference. Then yeah, I've been in Barcelona for that conference, and then I had a talk, and then just like at the beginning of lockdown, and then they asked us to present in real time or like in Zoom meetings. Then I started working on this project. It's kind of like a real time walkthrough like my practices, but for this particular one, we focused a little bit more on the project that we are going to have in Art Dubai with Inloco Gallery. So what's happening here? Number 6. It's like kind of like a real time, like it detects like real time webcam. I usually use it like in Zoom, like kind of like artist talks, as I said, but sometimes it's also working like performative in case of like a physical artist talk. So maybe I take a little distance, and then it's like more like a kind of like a performing way. So I mean, I built this 3D environment, which is like kind of like embedded webcam, and then I go through different projects that I did. I mean, like for example, this first one was a project called like RTTT. Like rendered through texture, something like that. It was like a playing with a like a computer graphic technique, which is called RTT, render to texture. And then I kind of like project this technique into some like literature, which is about like mirrors and reflection, which is like more like in a spiritual way that the whole world is a reflection of another reality, or like I mean all these like different meanings from mirrors. And like what is happening here is like there is like literally a webcam image here, and then there is this virtual camera which is like literally detecting this webcam image through another camera. And in the whole scene, I'm using the same texture, just like kind of like instantiations of this texture. And yeah, as I said, like there are like different kind of like virtual installation, each of them like kind of like talking about this project. So this is like kind of like the first slide, let's say. Actually, I presented this in a, like a slide format at conference, which were also really funny because I was kind of like consider each of them as one 2D slide at the end. But yeah, it's like kind of like the whole project is about divination, but more in a like a poetic way, which is not like definitely not particular for like Iran or like particular from Hafiz. It's like something really worldwide. And there were like many different kind of resources for people who doing kind of like reading the text and get inspired to think something about the future. And then, yeah, in different projects or in different like variations of this project, kind of like translate different like metaphors for this project. Like for example, yeah, at the point I had during my stay in academic solitude, I was working on this car, kind of like a kind of like a machine to process this data. I mean, it was like really metaphoric way. Then I also made a film, but yeah, I put it here as a symbol. And then like yeah, it's like a book which is like kind of like representing Hafiz poetries to talk about like this specific method that I'm following up in this specific project is working with Hafiz poetries. Uh, what we have, this is like Hafiz town back in Shiraz. So usually like we kind of like, this is like a tradition that people when they want to ask something about future or like something, I mean, not particular future, like for example, I'm going to this travel, is it like positive or is it negative? And they close eye and open a random page of this like poetry book, and then they start interpreting the selected poetry based on what they asked for. Like this is the whole technique, which is again, it's not like, I mean, it's coming from like Babels or like ancient history. And then in some cases, there is also like in the street, there are some people with this bird in their hand, and there's a box in front of this bird, and then kind of like to add a little bit more a sense of randomness to this process, they use this bird to kind of pick that poetry for them, which is also really beautiful and inspiring because I mean, there's always like there's many like kind of like theories because like these poetries are really mystical, complicated, but at the same time so much open and multi-dimensional that everyone can perceive something. So I think like the whole function and specifically like this bird and also how this like it's working in a funny way in the street is a really like a kind of like a easy way to communicate with a complex kind of like literature, to kind of like translate it into kind of like everyday life understandings or everyday life like meanings. What was like really interested for me during the research for this project, I was studying a lot about like kalama, which is like a word, means like word. What is really interesting for this research for me is that because at the end, this book or any other books that people used to do kind of like this tradition with them, they usually these books has a specific or it has like a static number of poetry and content. Like for example, particular Hopper is like 507 or 6 like poetries, let's say like page almost. But during the history, people, it seems, got like many different understanding from the same content. So that is like, I mean, that is really beautiful because it seems like every word at the same time that has a static meaning could bring something a little bit more dynamic meaning with itself. I mean, it's also like, I mean, during the research that I had mostly in academic solitude time, I also discovered a little bit like it seems like different layers of word, which is like ibarat, isharat, and mana, like different layers. I mean, it seems like word has different layers that kind of like in different situation people or like perceive something from it. Like, for example, one of the really easy ones is that, for example, lucky number, that most of people like consider a number for the lucky number. So no one can say this is like something that is not working or something fake. But I mean, because at the same time that people telling it, it might like happen, it might bring some luck for them. So that's kind of like different, like when a word get a different meanings. So like, for example, this project, I was also like researching or like kind of like discovering about how AI or how like, I don't know, how new technologies could kind of like give more opportunity to every single word that kind of like represent itself in a different ways or in a like a wider range of meaning for a specific experience and a specific meaning. So like another thing that I was thinking, like this kind of like this virtual installation is made for, is that I was thinking about like, I mean, like at one stage before using and implementing AI to this, I was thinking about like considering internet data and internet like the whole like kind of like content on internet as a new alphabet or new meaning of like for this like a specific project. So what I was thinking, like for example, in this specific way, like imagine you ask something about travel, then open this random page, and then maybe there is like a word, something like a road in this page, kind of like gives you a little bit more like kind of like make some connection to the purpose that you had. What I was thinking, like kind of like by using internet data in the context of this project, maybe we can give a little bit more possibilities to words to appear in a different way. Like, for example, what's happening here, all these birds are going to this like sign, and then going like kind of like pick something from, I mean, this is something like kind of like a symbol of databases, online databases. So I was thinking like in terms of like when this project is throw something or throw a request to internet to achieve or to get something back, it's kind of like these birds like metaphorically talking about that they might pick something even though it looks randomly from internet, but in the context of this tradition, maybe they bring like a multi-layer meaning of that specific content on internet. And then later, I was also like thinking a lot about like the different approach to AI, because like mostly the AIs that we know now is like mostly they made by kind of like these huge companies that they are always trying to kind of like, I don't know if I can say steal data, but at least archive our data in like our everyday life. So definitely like our online and offline activities, they are always like feeding to all these AI systems. So I was like at a point, I mean, around like 2.5 years ago, I had an exhibition in Barbara Gallery. And for that gallery, I started thinking about a kind of like a new idea for this project. I was kind of like thinking about like a kind of like good and bad AI. Like, what is it? Like, I mean, kind of like an AI at the same time that can be used in a way of, I don't know, selling something to us or collecting some data from us or like, I mean, any kind of like different approach. But at the same time, AI could also work in a kind of like a spiritual or like kind of like a goodness way for us in a context of like this I mean, in a context of spirituality or kind of in a context of goodness. So, I mean, I kind of refer to some like miniatures, which is always like a challenge between like good and bad, that kind of like powers they are fighting. And I kind of like borrow this kind of like demon. And sometimes in the project visuals, I use this challenge between like considering like there are some content or so, there are some like information that both side of these AIs, they are trying to catch this information. One side could be in a way of like using it in a good way to reply something like positive or like something like negative or something like to help the person, or the other way could be like something to kind of like just like collecting or selling something. I mean, there was a exhibition in Awesome Luxoplatz. For that project, I I started working on a little bit more installation kind of like way for this project. I built this ceramic VR headset. It was like uh, I mean, it was like made based on a like a VR headset that I crafted with plastic and then made a ceramic version. And I also kind of like made a water pond. I mean, it's just a symbol of what I made. And then I kind of like connect this project to this kind of like installation. I made some like communications between AR tablet uh, yeah, between an AR tablet, two VR headset, and this ceramic pond. So what was happening was like once people get the AR tablet and detect the water pond, and then by some like Bluetooth communications between tablet and pond, a kind of a kinetic pond, the water was start throwing to the pond, and then at the same time the tablet were like start doing divination for that person, and then at the same time the result of divination was projected on this LCD on the wall. So it was like more communications between different devices through like Bluetooth that happened. And something that a little bit like on the back end of the project to describe a little bit, I kind of like take advantage a lot of ASCII code, which is like some kind of like a translation of each character into computer language, kind of. So I always look for more opportunities to get more randomness in this project. So what's happening? I mean, in the project, once someone input their name, actually, I did input my name in a wrong way. I forgot like one e on that time that I was trying it. But what's happening on the like a kind of like a backend of the software? Uh, because once you put the name, it picks like one of the poetries for you. So on the back end, what's happening, I kind of like translate the name into ASCII code. Like for example, M is like 109, 111 is O, etc. And sum up of all of them, like some of the ASCII code of my name is like 549. I mean, my name in this wrong way. And then there is like the factor of time, which is exactly the time that you press that button. So the result of like the sum up of these two factors will generate a random kind of like a number, which will be projected on the amount of like poetries in the database and pick one of them. So I would say like every time, every person in every moment could get a different like result on top of the randomness. And then like, for example, by that a specific try that I did, it chose like number 26, like poetry number 26. And this is the whole poetry in the database. And what's happening on the next step is that I kind of like translate the whole poetry into again ASCII code. Like for example, it start with like what. If I go here, then again like WHAT. So like I would say like this is like this chart is like the whole poetry into ASCII or into computer language. And then the sum up of the entire poetry is like 1000 something. And then I kind of like receive or collect all this randomness to kind of use them as a seed of different layers of randomness. So as you see, like, I mean, the thing that I mentioned about like words, I always try to give like different kind of like opportunities to meanings to project themselves into like new ways. I mean, like kind of like give like a wider range of randomness. And then I actually like yeah, during like a few months of this research, I did like some algorithms to kind of like do a surgery in the poetry. Like for example, the selected poetry goes through some algorithms and it detects like for example there are like this amount of word count, like pronounced word, connection word, point word, and like yeah, etc. I kind of like there is like this algorithm that look on every single word and try to put them in different baskets to kind of like have a little bit like wider understanding of the selected poetry. And then for the next like level, I also like there are many APIs available for like online dictionaries and online sentence makers. Actually, like I'm also doing like this. Sometimes I randomly pick some like words and send them to dictionaries to get even like wider range of meanings for that word. And at the end, the software kind of like put all this information together in one prompt dynamically on the backend and send it to like OpenAI. I mean, for this project, I'm using kind of like OpenAI APIs. And then like that's why like every moment for every person, like the prompt in the backend would be completely different, because the prompt is just like kind of like a sum up of all these kind of like algorithms that kind of like went through the poetry. And then the final prompt is like, this is the person and that is the moment and this is the poetry and these are the like kind of like result of this algorithms to the poetry, like these are the more important words, etc., and these are some meanings, etc. And then at the end, like AI kind of like reply back with a divination for that specific experience. So that's why like it's always like so much like different in different experiences. Actually, in I had like many different experiences with this project. In one of the like most like one of them that I really like liked them also, even though it wasn't like any, there were no input for my exhibition in Soma Space. I kind of like implement a webcam inside this ceramic objects that I made. And what was happening, like once the person appeared in front of the webcam, I was kind of like using face recognition. And then during each face recognition, there is like, I mean, maybe this one, yeah. During each face recognition, there is like something between like 90 to 140 segments are kind of like detected from the face. So I was asking the person to stay in front of this like object for almost like 1 minute. And during that time, I was kind of like in every frame, the algorithm was like detecting every single movement of every single of these segments on the face, and kind of like it was like kind of like using these movements to generate a random number. So I was thinking like if someone like just like whispering something or like asking a question, even with a really like just like a small face movements, maybe like I don't know, the context of this project catch the like kind of like a wish or catch the content to use it. And then for the last or like the latest variation of this project, which will be presented in Art Dubai, I created some like a small porcelain sculptures, which is like a PDF file, and there is a bird on top. So definitely like this one is like the more like digital version of this sculpture. So what's happening on the back side of each sculpture, there is an NFC tag, and once someone is tapping this NFC, the web app of the project like start and doing all this process that I mentioned. So it's kind of like yeah, I made this kind of like a virtual installation to kind of like talk about like this kind of, hopefully this NFC uh, will bring some information from like different places, like just like a little bit more visualize and try to kind of like visualizing the idea. But yeah, I mean, this is like the last variation of the project. So maybe I pass by these areas, or like for example, this like bird is like around 2 years ago, a museum in Sweden commissioned me. They wanted to have an AR sculpture permanently in their city. So I was like referring to a phoenix, to a huge bird. So actually, this bird is live at the moment in a city in Sweden, in a specific spot of the city. So the concept behind it was like to have a monument in the city, like a virtual monument that people can participate in it. So the idea was like at the beginning of like the placement of this virtual like installation, the bird doesn't have like any feeder. So I mean, now in this like particular image, the bird has like 277 feeders on the back. They are like moving. So when we place this object in virtual in that city, there were no feeder. And once someone tapped this AR, there were like a text box appear for the person on this AR application, and ask them for make a wish. So every time someone make a wish, kind of like this wish became one of these creators and attach to the object. So I would say like people can have the same experience if like 277 people like kind of like send a wish to this bird. So I mean, in the concept, I was also thinking about like to have like a kind of like a poetic database of wishes, but alive in the city through the lens of augmented reality, and at the same time give a little bit more freedom to people to participate in a monument, because usually like monuments in the streets, they are like something really aesthetic, so people just like see them. But this one was a little bit like the idea that monument is something like for public, people can join it and even add something to it. So there were some also like, I mean, one of the purpose of this project, I wanted everyone access the database, but because the database of this information were in the museum kind of like website, so they say because we don't know what kind of like information people will submit, we cannot record anything. It's like they kind of like they didn't want to take the responsibility to store everything. So what's happening? There is always only the last wish showing to public, and then like here, like it's like a little bit, because I talk a lot like about I talk about like implementing AI into art world, and like how AI could benefit us as artists to kind of like participate in our projects, and especially like for example for this Fãl project, I'm using it in a way of like kind of like virtual day, etc. But here I wanted to like to just like make some like kind of like uh, exercise, let's say, to kind of like bring a live AI into a real-time experience. So recently it happened, yeah, I believe like, I'm sure like all of you already have seen or already have developed or something involved in a project that there's a screen that like an AI character is talking to us, or like there is a screen that there is an AI character that has some particular information that, for example, this AI character can, for example, help us in transportation, and we ask our questions like, I mean, what should we do in a specific like kind of like this specific topic. So what I wanted to like just practice as fun, we can just experiment. Now we have like a character that we can talk to it, but at this point, like this AI character doesn't have any character. So at this point, this guy is like a basic like AI knowledge. So, but we can like just easily attach a character to AI and start communicating with it. Like for example, I don't know if someone is interested, maybe you can involve if someone wants to detect this QR code. But I mean, sadly, it's just one person experiment, just only one person by time can try. Maybe we can try someone and then someone else try, but just in case. Someone should be the first? Yeah, I mean, someone wants to be the first. Have you got it? So there is a, like a text field exactly. Ask you, I mean, in this text field, you can describe yourself or like a someone. Like for example, you say I am, but you can lie. I mean, definitely, it's not like we don't want like your personal. But like for example, you can say I am like this is my name. I am like this person, and I'm from that. I'm interested in that. Like just like give some information about like a character, but in a tongue of I. I mean. Yeah. I mean, as more information as you give, definitely is like that. Yeah, I'm an experimental designer who creates virtual. Yeah. So now what's happening? Kind of like we kind of like describe the AI character with the information that you gave it to. Like for example, if I say hi, yeah. American someone who's like yeah, it's just like describe as that person. So the AI become like that. Yeah, it says like I'm Athena. Yeah, you mentioned. So like I mean, actually, I made this particular kind of like experiment in a workshop that I had. So in the workshop, it went so fun because people start like describing objects. So you can just say I'm a fish or etc. And then it will goes on top of this AI knowledge, and you can just continuously talk to this creature. You kind of like I mean, just like that's easy. You can create an AI entity that just public it to everyone and everyone. So definitely, if you describe like many more like knowledge or many more information, then the AI become like more adapted to all this information that you gave. I mean, if also like someone was interested to try or yeah, okay, good. It's funny. Yeah, I mean, we can just like continue because
If I ask him, do you like playing in the garden?
or where do you like to play, right? So what's happening is kind of like this information become on top of AI knowledge. So as more information you give, I mean, if you don't give like particular information, then it just like generates something. I love to play in parks so much. Just like create something. I mean, definitely it also inspired by like if it can catch something to answer this question, definitely it does. If not, just imagine like this creature doing that. So yeah, I mean, it's like I mean, all of these are super accessible. I mean, I'm personally using Open AI APIs, but definitely like DeepSeek is much like more like I would say cheap. But I mean, the price is not because the prices for like APIs are really almost nothing. Like for example, DeepSeek is like much more like for high like demand projects much cheaper, and definitely there are also like a few like a Llama or something. It's like there are a few like a free databases like AIs that we can use like for example for the other a little bit closer to I mean something that I wanted to also describe like beside all this like only like rough chat box the project can also participate in it like the art project also can participate in this conversation like for example like in the back end I'm just like managing this conversation but on the back end I can push some more information to this conversation based on the artistic approach like for example if on the back end I add everything like on top and say okay now we are like in a like room like something like that then AI would also consider it so yeah definitely like above like having only chat box AI can really involve in the meaning of the project. So what's happening like another one? I mean, this one is like normal image generation. Just you can just like describe something to generate an image from this link is the same. If someone interested to try. Just yeah, exactly the same. Yeah. So actually, that was also a practice because for the next step of this project, I wanted to like go through. Actually, in a collaboration will happen in next week. But I mean, generally, I was also like aiming to kind of like bring image generation to the project. But yeah, as you see, like once the image is generated, then this bird start picking that image. So I mean, yeah, as I said, like this image could be also a result of all these algorithms or like a result of all these like poetries and etc. But here it was just like more making this communication in a more like fun way. And yeah, I think that was kind of like the last slide. Actually, I something that I'm hoping for the next step of this development of this tour, like virtual tour to develop. Yeah, I didn't like reach it for now. Yeah, I was thinking for this room, I'm planning to have like two different characters, like the same as the first one that we had, and then like push these two characters that people like kind of like describe, and then start these two characters talking to each other to kind of like get inspired by two like personas in real world, like, and then inspired to AI entity to like talk behalf of this person, but just like yeah, just for the future. But yeah, that was the kind of like cool, let's say, yeah, big part. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohsen, for the amazing presentation. I really like that you took us inside your world. We really felt immersed, and we went like level by level deeper into it. So the first part where you were looking at poetry, is it the Shahnameh book that you were looking at in particular, or general Persian poetry? And I also really found it interesting how you try to generate random numbers to sort of open up a piece of the poetry. Did you ever consider making it more physical, like a physical version of, pages flipping or something like that? I thought it would be also an interesting combo between a pseudo randomly generated number and a physical book, because that's how you usually do it, right? In Nowruz or something.
Yeah. Oh, beautifully, thank you. That was really good. I'm so glad, and I mean, first, so glad that I get the comment that you like it. And yeah, I mean, actually, it's half his poetry. I mean, actually, there are also some stories doing divination with Shahnameh, but this one is like half his poetry. But yeah, actually, for one exhibition, I did the same. I made like a physical book. It was just only one page and kind of like engraving it, and I kind of like put one Arduino, one battery, like this module that charged the battery, kind of, and one touch sensor. So it was like once people like open this one page book, and once they touch this sensor, then I was sending the amount of touch and the duration of the touch, these two numbers in computer, then generating the kind of like this randomness. Yeah, but exactly. I mean, I had like, I mean, definitely I can bring it a little bit farther, maybe a little bit more complex, but yeah, I always like to bring it a little bit more into physical to close it to the, exactly as you say, the real experiment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Costa. Thank you so much for inviting us tonight. I find amazing and very relevant the fact that you're talking to the machines, because as an artist, you can see where we're heading, and I guess we are already in the phase where we are talking to the machine, to ChatGPT, instead of talking to people. So it's very interesting to see this in front of us. And I'm very happy to follow what you're doing and see things through your eyes. So thank you for organizing that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you also all Inloco people, and thank you for the comment, and thank you for coming. And yeah, definitely, I guess like this AI implementation, like particularly in art, will be like really good. Because I mean, for this AI character, I had like this imagine, it needs a little bit more development, but recently, not so recently actually, I mean, it's quite a long time, but there is something called mesh.io. It's like a kind of like an API that using AI generate 3D model. So we can easily kind of like describe a character and like at the same time having it in a 3D model, but at the same time also having this character as an AI. So it's like a full package just by writing a command, then you can just have this character alive, kind of.
Thank you for inviting me into your immersive world. Me being an architect, we're so used to physical spaces, but now of like since past 2-3 years, I've been developing virtual spaces, but they're still very hyper real. How did you think of this alternate universe that you built probably for yourself? What was your because navigation in the virtual world can be challenging, right? So what was your vision? How did you like go about?
Yeah, you mean the whole presentation?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
how do you place what is I mean just the navigation, honestly.
Actually, like, I mean, to be honest, like this presentation became one of my projects already. Like, I mean, it's already like a side project beside all my of other projects.
This is a virtual art gallery, so
Exactly. And it's really funny because I think so far I have more than I think 20 variations of this pad because of like different presentations. Like for example, as you see like this presentation we're like really focused on like this Fãl Project and AI. So I would say I have the same path in many different like installations, but every time I have a new talk, I try to kind of like replace some objects with some other objects. But to be honest, like that's a good question. I think it's just like by time because I try to kind of like understand the way of storytelling through this path, like a combination of like a game art or art game and like kind of like presentation. So what I'm just always trying to learn is to how can I improve this kind of like how can I improve this like a storytelling. Like for example, I escaped like recently I have some videos to it. And in some versions I have some interactions. I always try to have a balance of like just passing by and also doing some interaction. But yeah, I mean, this project for me is also like a study to learn a lot, just experiment. And thanks for your comment.
Any questions left? Thank you so much for your presence and energy this evening. Let's give the fantastic Mohsen Hazrati a round of applause. And also to you for being here on this Friday night. Thank you so much. Get home safe.